Hello, Kara from today's RDH here. Thank you for tuning in. Today, I am joined by hygienist Joy Riddle, a Pulpdent regional manager. We are going to discuss why she loves working at Pulpdent, how Pulpdent actively supports hygienists, and what makes Pulpdent's Embrace Varnish unique. I'm excited to be chatting with you, Joy. So, without further ado, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
You are most welcome. So I remember when we met first a couple years ago, what really stood out was your passion for your job. Please tell me a little bit about your background and journey as a hygienist who then started working at Pulpdent. Little bit different than working clinically. What was it that drew you to Pulpdent, if you could throw that in too?
So, what drew me to Pulpdent was I was already using Pulpdent products for about 15 years during my career. So, I've been a hygienist for over 20 years and then a lifestyle educator for probably about the past 6 years for a functional medicine doctor. And during that time, I was already using Embrace Sealant, using Embrace Varnish. My doctor had been using Activa Restorative. And so I was literally waiting for my son to get out of high school, have the ability to maybe go out. I've always loved education, and the right time came available. And Pulpdent was looking for someone to take over the Carolina regions. And 3 interviews later, and here I am with Pulpdent.
Awesome. So, one of the many criteria I look for when partnering with manufacturers is how actively they support hygienists. Fortunately, there are some really quality manufacturers out there that truly do value and support us as hygienists. From your experience, how does Pulpdent support hygienists?
Oh, we support hygienists. I am at every hygiene meeting in my territory. We gear everything towards, prevention for hygienists, having the best products that are available to them for ease of use for their patients. And we support all of their study clubs, study groups, big associations. And the passion is just there for learning and knowing the innovation and what we bring as hygienists to the dental world.
I love that. It's sometimes we aren't always valued as hygienists, whether it be, whether no matter what it be. And so that is awesome to hear. So switching gears a little bit, Pulpdent has quite a few dental products, but their most popular among hygienists are their Embrace products. Can you give me some background on Embrace and specifically Embrace Varnish? What makes Embrace Varnish different?
So Embrace Varnish is different in several ways. I always like to start off by saying the number one thing that I love about our varnish, number one, it does not separate. Every other varnish on the market separates, and that's where you see when they pull back the pack, they have to stir and it's kind of separating. And a lot of time hygienists do not realize that they actually need to stir with the back end of the brush versus the regular end of the brush. If not, they get unequal distribution and they're getting fluoride then resin, then fluoride and resin, and have a potential to swallow the fluoride. So with ours, there's no separation that occurs at all. So you're able to either use it within the pack or the tube and just like place it on your tray and, just mix it and put it straight on thin to win is what I like to say. We also use a totally different concept where we're using calcium CXP, which is calcium coated xylitol with phosphate in it. And it's 5% sodium fluoride and it's containing calcium, phosphate, and xylitol. And I like to say that the reason that we use that is inside of a package, if you were to put calcium and phosphate together and didn't have anything with it, it would automatically become calcium phosphate. So that xylitol helps to, keep all that together until it's active in the saliva so that it's brought out in equal parts as well.
I got it. Interesting. I am guilty of not stirring varnish with the correct end. Ooh.
About 99% of hygienists are, including myself, until I was taught that. And another thing is that most hygienists do not realize that on those foil packs, you actually need to scrape off the excess fluoride because fluoride ions are attracted to that tinfoil. And so if you do not scrape that off, you're losing even more fluoride. And the fluoride, once you've opened those traditional packets, is already emitting the fluoride. So if you're trying to be proactive, you've got a kid in the chair and you say, hey, I'm going to open my fluoride and my packs and bring them back, you're already losing that varnish, the fluoride. You're already losing what they're going to have put on their teeth. So that's another reason with our varnish, it's not actively working until it hits the saliva. So you have a greater uptake of fluoride, and it's not a peak, like, it's not a high peak and then it goes off. You have a steady release, over the next like 4 hours of fluoride releasing. So you have a greater potential and a greater benefit for the varnish to last and do what it's supposed to do.
Wow, more things I did not know. That's interesting. So you mentioned CXP technology. Can you go into a little detail about more about what that is and how that works?
Yes. So varnish that contains like sodium and fluoride and calcium together, and they put it in that, we'll call it like a wrapper, which is the CXP. And then after that, when the CXP comes into contact with the saliva, the xylitol starts to dissolve and it's releasing the calcium and phosphate ions. And then that reacts with the fluoride, and then that will create that protective fluoroapatite that the teeth actually need.
So a xylitol wrapper that is once it hits the saliva, that's when it activates.
That's when the action occurs. Yes, it does.
Okay, okay. So is there anything else you would like to mention about Embrace Varnish?
I just really love that when you think about the ADA, they highly recommend for fluoride varnish as a preventative measure for patients that have moderate to high caries risk, regardless of their age. A lot of times people think that varnish is only used for children, and that's not the case. There's many applications, whether it's children, adolescents, teens, geriatric. We a lot of times use it when patients have recession, but we also need to look for, in my personal opinion, in the settings where patients may have, medical history concerns where they do have xerostomia we were speaking about, as well as, just a high caries risk. We're not sure, what's going on, but there's applications everywhere that it should be used for. And, when you think about it, the exceptional release of our fluoride, like I was telling you, you don't get that completely high peak and then it drops off. So you're going to get that steady release that they need. So that's just different than any other varnish that's on the market. And it's going to prevent the discomfort like within the tubules. So that's also very important. And then we are, I always tell you, I think before, everything is made by Pulpdent. So everything is made here. So, and there's no middleman. So, with our varnish, it's very, very competitively priced, but you're just getting a high quality value product. And where Pulpdent's also trying to help out all of the communities. So we stay in that very competitive pricing with just a much quality product that's just much higher.
Thank you, Joy. I know
Welcome.
Pulpdent has research on its products. Yay.
Yes.
Um, including Embrace Varnish. So where can people find this research, some of the things you spoke about, and see the results for themselves?
I would go to, you can go to pulpdent.com/science-articles, and then you would be able to see all of those articles that are listed. And like you said, there's just a wealth of information. And that's the number one thing I love when I go into my lunch and learns or any of my CEs is I just pull out every study that we have. And, it's important because I think as most hygienists, we want to see it, and we see it and we believe it, and we start to use it, not just word of mouth. So that's very important.
I am glad you brought that up. Thank you. So this is great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I encourage everyone to check out the research behind not just Embrace Varnish, but any product you use. It's easy for some manufacturers to make claims, but as any evidence-based profession goes, like dentistry, we really should be looking at the research behind those claims. You don't have to take Joy or my word for it. Like, it's available. Please look. So okay, off my soapbox there. Get that in whenever I can. It's Wonderful of me.
So important.
Got to do it. So thank you so much for chatting with me today, Joy. And thank you to everybody for tuning in. To learn more about Pulpdent's Embrace Varnish, head on over to rdh.tv/embrace varnish or click the link in the description of the video or podcast. I appreciate the privilege of your time.
Always.